Right, so I broke that video up into two parts. This is the second part. So the first part was really asking just what is the expenditure variance and what is the volume variance. And we were arguing that in terms of the sorry, I'm just trying to see why this is not moving. We were just trying to argue in terms of here we are. Just trying to understand why our volume variance has come out the way it is. Why have we come out with 2,000 less units than we expected to? Because we had budgeted to come out with 10,000 units. And I said the one reason might be that people are actually working slower. Or we might have had just less capacity, if you like. We budgeted that we were going to have 20,000 hours available to us to do this job. But in the end, we actually ended up having 17,000 hours. So really, this is a question about labor efficiency and capacity, just within the context of space. Right. So it says here that our workers. So I've given the two reasons. So the first one I'm going to look at is an efficiency variance, and an efficiency variance is nothing has changed. When we talked about labor efficiency, it's really that we're just pricing it at fixed overhead costs. So the fixed overhead efficiency variance, like you would have done your variable overhead efficiency variance, like you would have done your labor efficiency variance, we want to know how long should they have taken to make the actual units, and how long did they actually make the actual units. This is what efficiency is about. So the fixed overhead efficiency variance. So in terms of pricing this time, if you remember from our standards, we expected them based on our standards that we were going to have 20,000 hours of labor and you were going to make 10,000 units. So therefore, if you like, that was £2, if you like, per unit. So, I mean, technically this is the same thing as sort of saying, 2 hours per unit. We're expecting you to spend 2 hours on every unit. And of course, at £50,000, this is really £2.50 per hour. So this was kind of the standard pricing that we had. Key point really here to focus on is that we expect you to spend 2 hours making a unit. So what happens? Therefore, for 8,000 units, we expect you to do 2 hours times 8,000 units, if you like, giving us 16,000 hours. And what do you actually do? So you actually went out there and you spent 17,000 hours. So we straight away have a difference of 1,000 hours. So you had spent 1,000 hours extra. This is adverse. This isn't good. And if we cost that at the standard, of course, standard price per hour, which we have calculated at £2.50, and this is 2,500. Remember, our volume variance came up to 10 grand adverse. We're just breaking that up. We're breaking that up, first of all, into the, if you like, efficiency variance, fixed overhead efficiency variance, which is 2,500. And the next thing we then look at is this question of capacity. So there is the issue of, were the workers slower and did we have enough people to actually do this job? And so the question, because remember that we based our starting point is based on this assumption that we were going to have 20,000 hours. So fixed overhead efficiency variance here, first of all, they were slower than expected. So if they were slower than expected, this is a reason why you haven't had the expected 10,000 units come out. You've only had 8,000 units, right? So if you like, this is one reason for the variance in this volume. And the second reason, of course, is just capacity. Again, if you think about it, 8 hours a day, we're talking about hours here. Did you have the necessary hours? And generally, the argument is that if you work longer, you should produce more. And if you're therefore working for short hours, you produce less. And we can sort of see that here, that simply looking at the capacity, you had budgeted for 20,000 labor hours to bring out these 10,000 units, but you used 17,000 hours. So therefore, they have worked 3,000 hours less. And again, 3,000 hours less compared to what you budgeted, because this is what you actually did, has come out of 3,000 hours. And again, we multiply that by the standard cost of an hour, which is £2.50, and that gives us 7,500. And this is adverse, if you like, as well. So really, what we're seeing here is a situation where your volume variance is really driven by whether you achieve, well, here we have an adverse variance. You've made less than you should have, and that's because you didn't have the capacity you thought you were going to have. Costed at 7,500, and there was efficiency issues in terms of they weren't as fast as they should have. So maybe not very quite good staff, not as efficient as you would have liked them to be, maybe not motivated, and also you just didn't have enough, if you like. And that, if you like, together gives you your volume variance of £10,000. I thought I had a slide here that gave us the breakup. I'm just taking you back. There is a fixed overhead slide. Oops, sorry, I'll find it. 1 second. There is a nice slide that just links all of them together, so you see. And I'm looking for the slide no, not that one. Almost there. I will soon find it. This is a variable one. Where is the fixed overhead? Here we are. So that's your fixed overhead cost variance, the actual cost variance. And this is broken up into the expenditure variance, which is purely, literally the difference between what we thought we were going to pay and what we actually pay. That's just expenditure. That's just that, again, really, like I argued here, this is the real variance. You see this cost variance here? Another time I'll explain. You don't need to know it, but this cost variance really is an accounting variance, because you're putting things in the budget based on this assumption of a fixed overhead absorption rate, and as you're putting things in there, you have a difference. So here you had an adverse variance of 2,000, and here you had an adverse variance of 10,000. So you would have had an adverse variance, if you like, of 12,000 in your accounts, and you'd be breaking this up, as you can imagine, breaking this up into these two. So these two make this up. This is an accounting issue because, of course, the figures that are going into the accounts initially are going on the basis that you will make 10,000 units. They're going on the basis that, if you like, it's going to be 50,000 spread over 10,000 units. So you can see that at the end of the year, you'll find out that actual units are different, and so the costs are different. So we need to now do journals to sort of bring it down to the real thing. But the real thing is, in the process, we had £2,000, which is actual increase in rent. We had 10,000, which is due to this change in volumes we expected to what actually happened. And of course, this 10,000, you can see we've broken down further into an efficiency variance of 2,500 and here of 7,500. And that's the way, the system to do this. And then, so really, it's now a case of us doing as many questions as possible to see how this plays out. Okay, great stuff. And that's fixed overhead variances.